we go. Mm. Hi. Wait. Sorry.
Good thing we can edit. Isn't that great?
Great. Hi, welcome to The Presence of Art, Energy, Healing, and Powerful Transformation. Today, my guest is Mary Lane. Mary is a healing artist, transformational life coach, professor of nursing at the University of Florida, founder of the UF Health Arts and Medicine Program, faculty associate of Watson Caring Science Institute, global ambassador of healing arts and caring, facilitator and co-founder of Artemis Sacred Journeys, social activist for healing with the arts. And Mary, welcome. Like, that's a lot.
Thank you. Thank you. Well, I'm so excited to be able to share my experience and art as a way of healing and the power of art in my life. I wanted to start with just, one of the things I started out with is I was in nursing. I never really was an artist until I had my own experience of being very, very ill and very, very depressed, and I started to make art. But before then, art played a very important part in my life in that I was a collector. I loved the arts. I felt like the artists were healers in their own right, and then making images and creating experiences. And I was an avid, very passionate art collector. And I knew artists and I knew the value of art. And what happened was I was friends with an artist, and my husband and I went through a very bad separation. It lasted a really long time. I became very, very sick, very depressed, and sort of dysfunctional at that point in my life. And my girlfriend said, "Oh, Mary, come over to my house and start making art." And I went, no. I can't do anything. I can't draw. But something in me was called to go to her studio. And it was the most unbelievable magical experience because she put all these art supplies all around me. She put this big piece of paper in front of me. And suddenly I just started playing, and I was taken by this incredible sense of exploring with the colors and the shapes and the movement. And I started painting, and she invited me to be in a studio, and I ended up painting these portraits, and one of the portraits is behind me. You can see I had never painted before, but I suddenly realized I can paint. I can actually, it looked like an image of a woman. It looked like, my arms, I got totally captivated by this, this artist that was emerging inside myself. I just couldn't believe it.
Are you saying one of those paintings, the portraits?
Yes, it was
one of your paintings.
I've got two. I got the first one that I painted in my studio, but this was one of the, I think this was the third one that I painted.
Wow.
The first one I can show you later. I can just put it up.
Sure.
But the first one, I was broken. I was sick. I was just like, it was just this cathartic experience of my despair and my depression. Mm. And I painted this one right here. And I mean, I looked at it and I think I might be better.
Yes, definitely.
I was like, I don't look sick anymore. I'm strong. It's like I painted myself strong. And it was such an unbelievable experience that I realized the painting was this reflection of this journey I had been on that was, for me, unspeakable. I couldn't really speak it. I was just totally overwhelmed with my sadness, my anger, my depression. And the only way I could express it was through these paintings. And it was such a powerful release of energy and such a powerful healing energy, and such this place of arriving at this totally new place in my life where I was not only not sick, but I now was like an artist. Mm. And I realized that this artist within me that had emerged in me was actually the healer in me that emerged in me. Yes. It's like I became an artist, and this artist became my healer. And each painting was a reflection of what was happening to me, and as I could move past it in a way that I couldn't move past it before. I wasn't able to talk enough, or cry enough, or scream enough, or anything enough, but the paintings were just this full expression of the deepest, most unspeakable part of myself. I was able to paint it. For some reason, it had this magical power. I was so excited. I started painting. I set up a studio downtown, and I started painting in the studio. And I was so like, I think what happens when people discover their creative energy in their life, and they discover how powerful it is, and they discover it heals them. I decided that I wanted to go to the local hospital. I was a nurse. I had taught at the College of Nursing, and I thought, I think I'm going to go downtown to the hospital. It was a huge university hospital here at the University of Florida. And I would like to create an artist in residence program where we would invite artists from the community to come in and ask patients and families to make art. So I met with this medical director of the bone marrow transplant unit, and it turned out he was a poet, and he loved clowning. He was a pediatric doctor. 50% of the patients at that time died of a bone marrow transplant. So it was a place where there was a tremendous amount of suffering and a tremendous amount of pain. And I said, I'd like to set up a studio on the unit. So I went and bought art supplies, and I bought an art cart. And I went out in the community, and I said to the artists in the community, about 30 artists arrived. I sort of had a retreat. I did a call to artists, and I said, if we could go into the hospital and bring our arts in, what could we do? Because it had never been done before. We would start at the bone marrow transplant unit, which is a very intensive care unit. Some of you might do it, some of you might not. We're going to just sort of be pioneers and try to see what works and what doesn't work. And we have nurses and doctors and social workers and everybody around taking care of the patients. So all we have to do is make art. That's it. Just paint with the paintings, paint patients and families, just write poetry, just dance with them. Whatever it is that you love, that you're most passionate about in being an artist, just invite someone else.
And so what was the response?
It was amazing. It was amazing. We started out with the nurses because we wanted to get feedback from them, and they said, we love this. And we started out with the families, and they would drag us into the room with the patients. And one of the first patients that we met was this man. He was getting a bone marrow transplant. He had just gotten leukemia. He was so afraid. They're on isolation. They're in the unit. He was so afraid. And we asked him initially, would you like to make art? He says, no, I'm not an artist. And I said, okay. Well, I'm going to leave the materials here with you just to sort of play with them when you want to. And he had never made art before. He drew 72 drawings.
Wow.
Every day he drew and drew and drew. It was amazing. It became, he sort of fell into it like I fell into it when I was sick. It just suddenly, he transformed from being into the story of being, I'm dying, I'm afraid, I have leukemia, I'm going through all this pain, to suddenly he shifted into the creative process where he just dove into it, just painting these unbelievable drawings. And what I ended up doing, I ended up deciding that I wanted to go back to school and get my doctorate to sort of study, what was healing about art? When people make art, what happens? What is this power that sort of emerges? So I ended up going back and getting my PhD in nursing with a minor in studio art. So I was able to continue my skills as an artist and continue my skills as a nurse and to study this. And the program just grew and grew and grew. And artists came from all over the country. Poets came, dancers came, people who did mosaics came. And at that point, it was this grassroots program. And what happened, which was amazing, we sort of did it in the hospital, and I had met with the, the CEO, and he said, you can bring in artists. So I got permission, and then we created this program. And what happened is NPR found out about it, and they came and did this beautiful special on people, on the artists being in the hospitals. And it became this huge like program. And suddenly people were like, what's going on and what's happening and who are the artists? And it was actually the first artist in residence program was started here. And then hospitals all over the country started inviting artists to work with patients at the bedside and be in the hospital and have concerts in the lobby and bring, I mean, it's amazing how much it's transformed this environment. One is we have galleries. We have beautiful art on the walls. We have sculpture gardens. All of a sudden, it was like there was this crack in the space of this very sterile, formal, medical model. And it was like beauty came in, and it totally transformed the experience, not only for the patients and families, but for the staff.
Well,
it was amazing.
Yeah, what I love about what you're bringing up right now around this is bringing it into the hospital, the healing aspect of it. So we tend to think that art belongs in the galleries or the museums, and here it is doing a powerful service.
Powerful. It totally transforms the experience. Like, one of the things I realize about art in my own life is art just as a beautiful painting, it takes you somewhere. It can take you somewhere. It can take you deep inside yourself. It becomes a part of your brain, I think, activates, your imagination opens, your creativity becomes open. And it just not only opens your heart, but it opens your mind. And it takes us to realms and places that uplift us, or that we can resonate with us, or that we know we're not alone. Sometimes just looking at a painting, like one of the things we did in the hospital is we went and set up a studio at the cancer center, and we invited patients, families, staff to make just a tile. And there's like 16,000 tiles now all over this hospital, covered with mosaics. But what happens when someone walks up and realizes that everyone has a story, it's just this little tile. They're just not alone in their journey. Someone's been there before them. They can feel their presence, that they've been there before. And they have this sense of like a human connection. And one of the things that happened at the hospital is, it was crazy. I went to an arts and medicine conference in Vermont, and someone said, you know what I would really like to do? I would like to go in the hospital and take out the ceiling tiles and paint all the ceiling tiles. And I was like, that's a great idea. So I came back home and I went to all the artists, because we met every week, and I said, let's go to the bone marrow unit and let's take out one of the tiles and we'll paint them with patience.
Wow.
And put it back up there. Well, of course, facilities came and they said, is it going to catch fire? And they all got excited, but then they realized this was fine. So now all the places in the hospital have these ceiling tiles. And not only do patients make them, family makes them, staff makes them, and local artists makes them.
That's incredible, Mary. I just love
it. It's incredible. And it all started with me realizing, wow, I wasn't an artist, but I'm an artist. And realizing, well, if I can be an artist, obviously everybody can be an artist. I was like shocked that I was an artist, and I had never had 1 ounce of training, and something just came out of me that I was just like a wellspring just came out. And I was like, I was shocked. And I thought, well, this wellspring is in all of us. That's we all have this power for creativity, whether it's a painting or whether it's a poem, whether it's music, whether it's dancing, whether it's gardening or cooking or whatever it is. And this creative energy, what I really truly believe, it's our life. It's our life force.
Yes.
We have an innate creative life force we can harness this energy through the good times and through the bad times,
Yes.
because it's the power of, it's our own inner power, and everybody has it.
Absolutely. And that's why I call it the presence of art, like, and bringing awareness so that everyone can tap into the presence of art, their inner artist.
It's so remarkable. I can't say enough, because we have, you know, made art, and the profound experience of sharing art making was so healing. And when I did my PhD, I did a study, and I asked people, well, what was your experience about making art? What happened? And it was really interesting. People started with their story. They had a story, whether they got breast cancer or they told me a story. And the story was either their illness or their darkness or their sadness. And they started in this one place. And then somehow something triggered them to make art, whether an artist decided to ask them to make art, or they just decided to start writing poetry or their own. Something triggered their creative process. And when they started doing their work, the creativity, it was like they discovered inside themselves there was this natural flow. They described it as if they moved out of an ordinary consciousness into this extraordinary consciousness, where they were sort of taken almost like a wave into their creativity. And what they said, it was like a flow that they tapped into in themselves. And they described it with suddenly the creative process like took hold of them, and they started painting, or they started writing, or they started doing poetry, like something took over. And what happened when they made their art, they were able to see a reflection of their real, true experience.
Wow.
It was authentic. It was like it was a reflection, and they could be a witness to what was happening in their life, which was very powerful, going, wow. And another beautiful thing happened. By moving away from yourself and seeing your own creativity, you cultivate a sense of deeper understanding and insight into your own experience. And that was very interesting, like being able to, no one interpreted their art. It was as if their art spoke to them. And the art was the gift that they were giving the world to share with the world, but also giving back to themselves. And what really was amazing is when I asked people to go deeper into their story and said, well, what was healing? What healed? What was the experience of healing like? One person said, I began to see out of the eyes of an artist. And I started noticing the world in a totally new way. I started noticing color and light. And I had this whole different experience of being a central human being, and the world was alive and colorful, and everything was beautiful. Everything was art. All of a sudden, everything became art. And I had this feeling that I was connected to everything. I said, really?
Making me cry, actually. That is just...
You're actually, there was this, and what I noticed in people's stories is there was a moment of transcendence, even if it was for a moment, where suddenly their whole world opened and they felt this connection to something beyond themselves, but that was themselves. Like they connected to something deeper inside themselves and deeper in the world, where they experienced this oneness. And everybody described that story in a different way.
Oh, yeah. I mean, we're all individual.
Everyone had a different story. I wrote a book. My book after my dissertation was called Spirit, Body, Healing. And it was stories of people who shared their art. People saw angels. People saw illuminations. People looked at their art and saw something appear to them and speak to them through their art.
Okay.
Stories were just beautiful. And I realized that art is a way that we can actually access the most beautiful and deepest part of ourselves, which is connected to our spirit. It's like, wow.
It's the creator. We are the creator.
It's like, you're right. We are the creator. We tap into that part of ourselves. And that was healing. That was remarkable. And it healed them it may not have healed them of their physical illness, but it healed them at their spirit. It was soul care. It was, to me, it was like, it was a healing that was more whole. And it was able to transcend. I'll share one story of a little girl dancing. You know, the dancer would go in and dance with her every single day. And she was going through a bone marrow transplant, and the dancer, she got discharged, and her, you know, they thought she was better. And she went back to the hospital to get a checkup. And she said to her mom, "Mom, the bad cells are back." And the mother was like, "Oh no." So they went and they hospitalized her, and it was going to be, you know, the last hospitalization. And the artists, the mother saw the artist in the elevator and said, "You know, she's back. I want you to come see her." So the artist came and they sang at her bedside. They sang, and they, you know, she just got all dressed up, and, you know, they painted a T-shirt for her, and they just colored her room and brought all this energy and beautiful and color in the room. And the mother tells the story that the dancer came in, and the little girl was in a coma, and she was sleeping on and off all the time. And the dancer comes in and says, "I'll call her Maria. Would Maria like to dance?" And Maria opens her eyes and says, "I want to dance. I want to dance." And she was so tiny. So she lifted her up out of bed, and the little girl just danced in the room, just danced and danced. And she did this beautiful little twirling around the room, and the dancers dancing around her. And she goes to her mom and she says, "Oh, Mommy, don't worry about me. I'm going to go heaven, and I'm going to be dancing with the angels." And it was just the sweetest story. And I believe in that story, her little spirit illuminated to where her mother saw her dancing with the angels. And it was such a beautiful story that, I mean, I can't begin to tell you how powerful healing and art and the presence of art is in our lives. It totally changed my life. Yeah. It's just amazing. And I have been this has been my passion and my life work. I teach here at the University of Florida. I teach creativity to medical students and nursing students and counselors, that they need to reclaim the artist in themselves, because the artist is, I love it. When you make art, it's like the fullness of your person, of your personality, of your presence emerges in you. And I always say, this is the most unique and special part of you, of what you're going to do with your life, is have this creative part of you shine through, and invite the artists in, invite art, music, dance, poetry, you know, make it in your offices, put it all around you, put it in the environments. You know, art belongs to us. It's an ancient, ancient healing modality. Yes, and we need to reclaim it back in our culture and value it. And one of the things I've done a year ago, I created an online course I want to share everybody about. I have an online course. It's on a program called Coursera. I created it at the University of Florida. It's called Healing with the Arts. And you just go to my website, you click on it, and you get the course. It's 6 weeks. And it's all video. It's all short videos, but it's me engaging you and inviting you to make art, to dance, or to do poetry, or to paint, or to draw. And I have all these artists demonstrating things. So it really invites, and it's for everyone. Yeah. It's just to get you to sort of reignite that creative artistic part of you that we all have. That's so powerful.
Yes, it is. Yes, it is.
I don't know what else to say. I just love it. I just love it. And I feel like what the world needs now are more art and more artists, you know, and more music and more poetry and more, it's just follow your passion. Follow your passion.
Get in touch with the presence of art within you, and it will be unlimited what you do. You're open to
unlimited. It's true. It's like, I really think, this is so funny. When I thought about this and I had this vision of bringing artists into the hospital, I remember I went out in nature. I love to go to the springs here in Florida, and I was studying Native American, the old spider woman at the edge of the spring. So I had this image of this spider woman throwing a tapestry of silver threads to the stars, you know, and each star was going to be an artist that was going to come down and create this program with me. And I thought, this is just so great.
Oh, that's
and
cool.
It was amazing. It happened.
Yes.
And I didn't do it. I'm pretty sure something was working through me that was ready to happen, because all those stars showed up as people. The dancer. I mean, it was just all of a sudden there was these artists all there going, we want to do this. This is our work. This is our passion. And now it's created something that has a life of its own. It was just something that was waiting to be manifested. And I think each and every human being on the planet, when we open our hearts and we acknowledge the presence of art in our life, we're actually inviting the infinite creative energy that's waiting to come through you. You give permission for it to come through you. And what happens is something you never would have imagined. Because when I painted my first painting, I was like, who painted that? Did I do this?
And Mary, yeah, when we first spoke and you told me that your first painting, it was just a mess. And I was picturing this abstract mess. And those are not messes. Those are like amazing paintings. So I get it. Like that is just.
I was just shocked.
And what if you had not listened to that, you know, had that courage to go ahead and put the paint on the canvas and use those tools?
I think I would have. I think a part of me would have died.
You know,
I think there's I know, and I think there's so many of us that are hurting and that are not. You know, I actually think it's divine intervention. We open ourselves up to the divine.
Yes,
when we open ourselves up to our creativity.
I mean,
it's amazing.
We are creators. I mean, this is our purpose, is to create. And when we deny that, or we're not even aware of it, so many of us aren't even aware of it. And they think the stories that we tell or that I hear are, you know, that it's not for me, or I can't do a stick figure, or I can't. And it's just not true. It's just not true.
It's just not true. Because I'll tell you, that man that was in the book, he just did stick figures in the beginning. Mm-hmm. It was okay. And then he started getting more into it. And then he started moving into it. And it just starts to flow. And then it's just coloring. And then it's just playing. And then it's just doodling. And then it sort of creates this life of its own. And I think one of the main things that we have is there's an inner critic that we criticize ourselves. Mm-hmm. We criticize ourselves and we hold ourselves back because we feel like we're going to be judged by other people. So we judge ourselves first. Yeah. And I think when I was really sick, I was so devastated. I was so like, my life was just, as I knew it, was kind of gone. And I was like, well, I have nothing to lose. I mean, I'm a bad mother, I'm a bad wife, I'm a bad this, I'm a bad that, I'm a bad artist. Who cares? At least I'll have fun making art, you know? And I started making art, and then I healed myself, and I healed all those things that were damaged in me at the same time. It was amazing. I was able to begin this journey, and it's been a lifelong journey.
And you have helped so many people because of that. And I just thank you and honor you for that.
Well, thank you. And it's, I want to just say that my mission is, I have 20,000 students in my course, and they're international students all over the world. And my goal is to have 100,000 students. And it's a free course. I just want to reach out and touch and say, you are an artist.
Yes.
You are a beautiful artist. And the greatest gift that you can give the world is your art and expression of you, because no one else is you. And you've been put here for a purpose. And one of the greatest gifts that you can give of yourself is your art, because your art is truly who you are. It's an expression of your truth. And we all need to know, you're here in the world because you're meant to be. And you're meant to be here. And we're meant to reach out and create and share our lives with each other and share our art with each other, because not only does my art healed me, but my experience of that and sharing my art has healed so many people as a way of inspiring them to make art in their life and bring arts in hospitals and bring arts into nursing homes and bring arts into schools and empower nurses to make art with their patients at the bedside. And just, I use art everywhere I go. It's just the most powerful transformational tool I can think of. It just, in and of itself, it transforms you just by doing it.
It is. It does. So Mary, that's your gift that you have to offer, is if they sign up to your course, right?
Yes. Sign up to my website. Okay. And it's called Healing with the Arts website. And you just click on it. You get a free coloring book that you can download, and the link to the free course. So I got 2 gifts on my website. So I'm very excited, and I hope you take advantage of them. Color your, start with your coloring book. If you don't feel comfortable making your own images, start with the coloring book, and then, engage with the paintings. And I would love it. I do a Healing with the Arts Facebook group. Share your art with the world. Start there, but share your art. Put it out in your community. Just share your art everywhere you go, because the presence of your art is the presence of the best you there is.
Absolutely. Thank you so much for being with us.
Thank you. I had the best time talking. Nothing makes me happier.